you trying to stop paying for your kids' life? Well, we're going to share some tips today on how you can help your kids become financially independent. And we've invited back to the table Dr. Laurie Appel, who has a successful practice in New Jersey, as well as a popular podcast called, wait for it, you ready? You think you've got issues? We've also invited two moms from the Moms Who Dare community, Kim Kellenbenz and Diane Moore, to join us. I'm Jodi Silverman, certified life coach and host of In the Nest with Jodi. To lighten this topic just a little bit, our friends at Flower Bike Farms brought us some love and beauty to have at the table in the nest today. But let's just get right into it. When I knew that I was going to invite Laurie to sit at the table with us, I put out a poll to the moms. These are my Moms Who Dare right here. We have Diane and Kim joining us as well, because you have to have real moms talking about real stuff when it comes to parenting. And most of us have kids either out into the world or getting ready to launch out into the world after the college season of life, and we're still paying for them. A lot of us are still paying for their stuff. How do we get them? There's two parts to this question. How do we get them off the payroll is one, but there's more to it than that, because some of our kids are getting the jobs and doing what they need to do, but where they're moving to, they can't really afford to live because the expense of life is too high. So how do we go about getting our kids off the payroll?
Well, I think that those two things are very much connected. And I don't think that there is a one-size-fits-all solution to that for many reasons. One is our financial circumstances are different, what we can and can't afford. And I think that our child's plans are very difficult. And you mentioned one thing, where they choose to live. When they graduate, what kind of job are they going out into? If they're going into IT or possibly engineering, they may earn a higher income than other paying jobs. Also, what their emotional development is, what their cognitive development is, what their financial circumstances are in terms of things like loans or inheritance or how much money that they've saved, and how well we've prepared them.
I would have liked an inheritance.
So, and how well we've prepared them for it, because we can't expect them to be able to do this if we've really not prepared them adequately to do it. So I think that even though that there's not a one-size-fits-all, what I see that a big mistake that a lot of parents do is that they let their frustration get really high. I'm tired of paying for this. Or they keep giving their kids money, and what they see is that their kids ask money for rent or for this, but meanwhile, you can tell that they're going out and buying like Starbucks, you know, $7 frappuccinos every day.
Absolutely.
So your frustration builds, and then you get into this sort of cutting them off stance. Like, that's it, I'm done, from now on, blah, blah, blah. You're paying for this.
You're looking like me. I'm looking in the mirror. No, I'm only kidding. Go ahead. I'm on.
You do talk with their hands.
Yes, go ahead.
Too. But what that does is that now you're setting them up for failure. They're destined to fail then. And then you're back in rescuing them. So the best approach to take, whatever your financial circumstances are or their financial circumstances, is to have a discussion about it. To set out with them, what is the budget? What are your expenses? How much are you earning? And from there, you say, well, look, it looks like you're coming up about this much short every month for really, really important expenses. So, but their income is going to change over time.
Yes.
So you begin to plan for what you need to supplement them for and how you're going to over time wean them from that and give them more time that they need, because better that you give them more time and they end up successful than you shortchange it and then you end up back at square one.
Or they're back home.
Right, or they're back
Oh
home.
God, no. Oh God, no. This nest is closed. No, but you know what? It's interesting, because I shared this with Laurie, but I don't know if I ever shared with Diane and Kim, and then I'm going to ask you guys a question. But Ellie, when she was graduating college, and Ellie's really good with her money. She knows what she has. She knows what things cost. But I remember her saying, so like when I graduate, that's it? I have to pay for everything? And I could see like the panic, and I realized we did not have that discussion. We just assumed she knew what we were thinking. And we said, no. And that's when we realized we put down all the expenses, and we put a plan for like when she would take over her health insurance, when she would take over her cell phone bill. And you could see the relief in her, because she thought, I'm graduating, everything's on me. My clothes, my travel, my fun, my happy hours, my medicine, my doctor's appointment, everything was on her. And we were able to sit down and say, no, this is what you're going to pay for. And because we know this is what you're going to get paid. And a year from now, you're going to take this, or 6 months, you're going to take this. And it's kind of similar to what you said. I really like how you plan out. It's like an extension of a previous episode where we talked about budgeting, teaching them budgeting. This is sitting down and showing them what they have. So I'm just curious. I know Kim falls into the category, am I allowed to share, where your daughter's doing everything she should do?
My daughter, Kara, she's in television production, and she took the leap and moved out to California, where you really need to be to get an initial job, at least anyway. So she got a job, and she's been getting several jobs freelance on big time shows and making decent money, but not enough to be able to be free of us 100%. Her rent alone she can't afford, in addition to her cell phone and her car insurance and her groceries and her free time, which she doesn't really have that much of because she's working all the time.
And you're not talking about a big 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in LA either.
No, we're talking about something reasonable. So our question is, what is the one item we should make her pay for so she has a sense of being responsible for something financially that she can be accountable for? So we decided to make it, we'll pay half of her rent and she has to pay the other half, because she certainly makes enough money that she can pay at least half of her rent and then have money left over for the other things that she needs to do. I mean, but she is 24 and she's going to be 25 in July, and she works freelance, so she doesn't get benefits. So there's like all these other big monster items that are still lingering out there that she can't take over 100% yet. So we're struggling with how to keep giving her things to be accountable for.
But you said a very important thing, which is that she's working really hard.
Yes,
and
she
I think
is.
that's the difference, that when you see your child working really hard, but there's I mean, how many kids go on to graduate school or graduate with a ton of student debt? You know, so the important thing is that you've raised a kid who's working hard. So
Congratulations to that.
So in those instances, I think as parents, we feel then more able to say, well, then we'll supplement if we can afford to do that.
Right.
So I think that where parents get more stuck is when the situation is when you feel like you're paying stuff and your kids are being then frivolous with their money. You know, in a situation like this, like she's working really hard, and I would certainly reward that, because what we end up doing as parents is we rescue them when they're failing. And what does that reinforce?
Failure.
That reinforces failure. You are reinforcing her success and her hard work. And that's what we want to do with our kids. We want to reinforce their hard work and their success. So you're doing the right thing.
Thank you. I didn't think of it that way. That's a good way to think about it.
Yes, see, that's why we sit at the table with the professionals. So, and Diane, you have, didn't you have a question about your son or something you wanted to share?
Yes, so I have a son who's going to be graduating from college in May. And he is terrific. He had an internship that paid him last summer. He saved up some money. But he's going to be establishing everything brand new. And when I was at that age, my mom gave me hand-me-down furniture, and she always was there kind of as a safety net for me. And my husband and I have been talking a little bit about what do we help out with and what do we say this is your job to pay for. And so that's our conundrum, is how much do we help? He's going to have a nice income, but he's newly starting out, so he doesn't have a lot of savings.
I think that in an instance like that, you said something important, which is that your parents gave you hand-me-downs, right? And you were happy and grateful for it. So I think that in a situation like that, what you need to do is you need to sit down and say, kind of like we talked about on a previous episode about budgeting, is you say, what do you need to start out? That you write everything down, and then you say, okay, here's what we can contribute. Now, we can also give you hand-me-downs. So if you'd like to take that and have a little bit more money to do X, Y, or Z, that's great. But if you want to get all new stuff and you want to shop at IKEA, that's great too. But if you want to get all new stuff and shop at Ethan Allen or something, which I doubt he does, but then that's on you too. So that you just have that conversation and you literally map it out and you say, this is what we're willing to do to help you start out. As kind of like a graduation gift. This is what we're willing to do as a graduation gift. You spend it how you choose. And if he's wise, he'll take your hand-me-downs and pocket that money. And if not, then lesson learned, you know, he may regret that later, but that's okay, because that's an important life lesson as well.
So, you know, it's interesting because when Ellie moved out to her first apartment, when she moved from DC back to Philadelphia, we told her, we said, you can take all your furniture from your bedroom, all of it except for the bed. because if I had somebody to sleep over by, she took her dresser, she took her armoire, she took a side table. She was so grateful not to have to spend the money because she knew that we were splitting 50-50 anything she was buying for her new apartment. That was our thing. But it's interesting. I think all of us said the same thing. We all, the big question here that was answered, and I think you really laid it out well, Laurie, and I thank you for that, is how much should we? We don't know as parents. Like this is, again, we don't have a playbook for this stuff. We don't know, we can draw from our experience of what our parents did for us, but there's no playbook. So I love the suggestion of sit down, partner with your child and have a conversation, say, let's write down all of your expenses, what you're going to be able to afford, and how you're going to do that, and what we're able and willing to contribute. So
able and willing.
Able
Right.
and willing, because I heard you say that.
Yes.
We all can't afford the same things all the time. Unfortunately, sometimes you just can't. So thank you so much. Thank you
Thanks
for
for
sharing.
inviting
This is, yes, you're sharing personal stuff here, but this is going to help other moms where we blaze the trail. Just remember who blazed the trail. That's why we're sitting with wine, because we blazed the trail already. But no, thank you all for being here. And Laurie, thank you again for joining us. Your
welcome.
insights
I love
are
being
so
here.
valuable. And I just love sitting at the table with everybody. And if you want to learn how you can work with me, or maybe grab a seat at a future episode at the table in the nest, head over to jodisilverman.com. And as I always say, dare on.